Welcome back to Giants Mania. Today we'll be going over 5 more prospects the Giants might take at pick number 11. I want to talk about one at the end, so it's kind of 5.5 or 6 if you want to put it that way, but if you missed my previous video, go ahead and look at that one. So as we get to the draft, I think the draft is now 9 days, 10 days away, something like that, but it's getting here, and I want to do 3 more draft videos. I want to do one mock draft for my preference, and then one for a actual prediction of what I think the Giants will do. And then I want to put out a video for like guys in the middle of the draft, like sleepers, if you will, that I like in this draft. So I want to put 3 more draft videos out. Well, I guess 4, including this one. But yeah, hopefully you guys stay tuned for that. And I probably won't be live for the draft, but what I want to do is like record my live reaction, see the pick, and then talk about it. Then I'll upload after. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'll do for that. So you'll get a live reaction out of me. Hopefully it's a positive one. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave in the comments how you feel about these 5 prospects, and let's get into it. So first we have vera-tucker, a guard from USC. So he has experience at 3 positions in college. So he played left tackle last year, played a lot of left guard in 2019, and then played under 150 snaps at right guard in 2018. So he has a little experience there, but has experience at guard and tackle. So I would think he's going to play guard in the NFL for this reason. His arms are 32.1 inches. I mean, it's not enough to be a tackle. I mean, you have to be perfect. There's no margin for error at that point. So I would think he has to be a guard. His pro day was not that impressive. I mean, he's basically in the 60th, 70th percentile in most things. He had a really good vertical leap at 32 inches. 36 bench reps is very impressive. I'll give him that. But he's 6'4", 308, so a pretty good size, but I don't really see him being a tackle, so I think he will be drafted to play the guard position, and that's like the number one concern I have, really. I mean, it's not really fair to him, but it's just a positional value / positional scarcity type thing, because not many teams are going to draft a guard in the top half of the draft. We're talking about 11th overall. Of course, Quentin Nelson went 6th overall a couple years ago, and that guy's on pace to be a Hall of Famer. And I've said this before, unless you're guaranteeing me that the guy's going to be a Hall of Famer, play 15 years or so, and play at a tremendously high level throughout his entire career, it's not really worth taking a guard that high in the draft, because when you're picking at 11, you want to find a guy who's going to be like a franchise-changing player, plays at a valuable position, quarterback, corner, edge rusher, offensive tackle. And the reason I say that's because, look at the guards in free agency every year. Like this past year, we saw Joe Thuney. We even saw Kevin Zeitler. Gabe Jackson got released. There's a lot of guys. Larry Warford came out of, he didn't play last year, but there was solid guards. Trey Turner, another guy. There was guys everywhere on the free agent list. And, you can get solid guards in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5 every single year. Guys like Jonah Jackson, guys like Damian Lewis for Seattle last year, Michael Onwenu with the Patriots. There's solid guards in the middle and the end of drafts basically every year. You have to find the right guard, mind you, but still, it's easier to find guards than it is to find offensive tackles. Not many teams are letting their offensive tackles hit the open market, so it's not like taking a guard at number 11 is the smartest pick based on value, but from what I've seen from Dave Gettleman's past, he doesn't really care about that. Sometimes Dave Gettleman likes to take the safe player, which is, the Saquon Barkley pick was a home run because everyone knew Saquon Barkley was going to be one of the best running backs in the league right off the bat. Once Saquon Barkley was drafted, he was automatically a top 5 running back in football. When he took Dexter Lawrence, 17th overall, it was a pretty known thing that he was going to be a solid NFL player at the minimum. We all knew Dexter Lawrence was going to be a good football player. He may not have the biggest impact on the game because he's mostly a run stopper, but he was going to be a good NFL player. So I don't know how much has changed. I mean, there has been definitely a change in the way the Giants have gone about their business recently. They've embraced analytics more and things like that. So I do think positional value is a thing that the Giants now take into consideration. You look at last year's draft, they go offensive tackle, valuable position. They get a versatile safety, valuable position. A slot cornerback, valuable position. They go Matt Pear, offensive tackle, valuable position. Their first 4 picks. So I don't know if they're going to go guard in the first round. It's kind of hard to believe, but there is a lot to like about a guy like vera-tucker. I just don't really envision him going in the top 15. Maybe the Giants take him if their guy is, if some team snipes the Giants right before, maybe they settle for vera-tucker. I would prefer they trade back and do it, just like Azeez Ojulari. I like Ojulari, but I prefer you to trade back and take him. But the good things about him is, once again, a ton of versatility, play tackle, play 2 guard spots. I just, once again, don't see him playing tackle in the NFL because of his arm length, unfortunately. So He's very consistent. You don't see him lose many reps, which is what I like to see, of course. But he has really light feet for an offensive lineman, really good out in space, gets to that second level very easily, will locate the linebackers, safeties, open up running lanes, which is great. His awareness is next level. I mean, a lot of times they were throwing out blitzes at him, and he just seemed to be in the right place at the right time. He was never confused, which is great, especially for a young player. He allowed 1 sack and nearly 1,000 snaps in 2019, so that's obviously really good. So I think last year he allowed 4 sacks, I believe, in 400-something snaps, so it wasn't as good. He struggled in one game against Oregon this past year, but Oregon has that guy, what's his name? Is it Kayvon Thibodeau or Thibodeau? Supposed to be like a top 5, top 10 pick next year. He struggled against him, but still, I mean, he played well the rest of the year basically outside of that game. But really good balance, really good leverage. Leverage was the thing that stood out to me with him. But his workout metrics I mentioned before, they were decent, nothing great. A lot of it in like the 50th, 60th percentile type things, but nothing, it wasn't bad, I'll put it that way. Only 32-inch arms. He looked overmatched once again in the Oregon game, so that's against the future top 5, top 10 pick in the NFL draft. I get that, but still not what you want to see against NFL talent. And he's not an incredible athlete, but you don't need to be a great athlete for a guard. For example, Kevin Zeitler was not a tremendous athlete by any means, but he got the job done. So you don't have to be a great athlete to be a guard. So I think he'll have a solid career, vera-tucker. I just, I'm not a big fan of taking the safe pick in the first round. I'm all for shooting for the upside and things like that. I'd rather take a shot on a guy who has a chance to be a franchise-changing player and not just a solid guard. I know having a good guard is important, but it's easier to find those guys in free agency and later in the draft. I'm not going to spend the first round pick on one. So I wouldn't hate the pick if the Giants made it. I'd be a little disappointed because it's not the best value, but still, I could probably live with it. If he has a Hall of Fame career, then, so be it. Next, we have linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I'm going to say JOK the rest of this because I butcher that name all the time, so I'll call him JOK. So last year, Giants fans were just infatuated with this guy named Isaiah Simmons, the Clemson linebacker, went to the Cardinals. A lot of people were not happy when the Giants passed on Simmons. He was the next Lawrence Taylor. We heard it all. But I don't want to call owusu-koramoah, JOK, a poor man's version of Isaiah Simmons because it's not like Isaiah Simmons was phenomenal as a rookie. I think JOK has a chance to be better than Isaiah Simmons. I know that JOK is pretty undersized. I think he's 6'1", 225, which very small linebacker. I get that. But the NFL is trending towards these smaller linebackers, guys that can just run sideline to sideline, that run these 4.4, 4.5s. These linebackers that are 6'3", 245, 250, that, run 4.8s, 4.9s, whatever, they're not as common anymore. The JOKs of the world are probably the next breed and the next generation of linebackers. So this guy right here might be the future of the linebacker position. Who knows? And same with Isaiah Simmons. So we missed out on Simmons last year. Well, I don't know if missed out's the right word, but didn't take him last year. But JOK is a guy that is just, he does everything on defense. And the only problem I have with him is that he's undersized and is not the most powerful guy. But you talk of being fast. I mean, he has a 6.8 3-cone, which is just amazing. That's great right there. And then has great hips, and he's awesome in pass coverage. That's the number one thing he's known for, is being great in coverage. They put him at slot corner, I think, over 330 plus times in each of the past 2 years. So when you're playing slot corner as a linebacker and doing a good job at it, I mean, that just proves how versatile this guy actually is. So he's a guy that they can put anywhere in this defense. I feel like Patrick Graham would have a field day with this guy. And if you put his skill set next to Blake Martinez, a guy that can cover just about any position, next to Blake Martinez, who takes on the run well, finishes his tackles well, that right there would be a good combination in my opinion. So I don't know if the Giants will be, I feel like a team will be all over this guy. I don't know if it's the Giants specifically. We have not heard the Giants name really attached to JOK, but same thing with last year. I mean, Andrew Thomas was not really expected to be the Giants pick, and then all of a sudden we were all surprised by it. So you never know, but I could see a team having a crush on this guy, or multiple teams having a crush on this guy. But so the league, as I said, is transitioning more to this linebacker skill set of JOK, great hips and coverage, covers any position, tight ends, running backs, even covered slot receivers. He can cover outside receivers as well if he needed him to. The 6.8 3-cone's amazing. So PFF graded him over 72 as a pass rusher, a run defender, and in coverage. So I don't know how many of you love the PFF grades and whatnot, but they do go back and watch every play and gave him over 72 in each category, which is impressive stuff, honestly. So the bad part, he missed 15% of his tackles last season. You would like to see that basically cut in half, somewhere from 6 to 8%, maybe lower, would be great. So yeah, that's a concern. But the only problem is with that is he sometimes, I had this written down though, he plays at one speed. You don't he can change direction, but he just always goes 100 miles per hour. You don't really see him adjust too many times. He'll overrun ball carriers sometimes and things like that. So sometimes he kind of gets out of his shoes and is a little over aggressive, but I feel you can coach that out of a guy, especially a young player like this who's 21 years old. So it's not the biggest concern in the world. I'd rather have a guy with the talent and fix something like that. So he doesn't have a definite role. I feel like a team might have to use him creatively, but I like Patrick Graham a lot. I mean, we all love Patrick Graham. I feel like he would be a great defensive coordinator to get his hands on a guy like JOK, put him anywhere on defense. They'll find a way to make him a successful player on this team. So, yeah, I'd be excited for this pick. I mean, of course, a pick like this has a chance to bust. He's very undersized, I get that, but at the same time, he can do so much for a defense. He's basically, once again, this new generation of linebacker, and the Giants have a very good defensive coordinator. The Giants have a needed linebacker. We all like Blake Martinez. Well, most of us do, but we all like Blake Martinez. And behind him is a bunch of unproven guys or just depth guys. Tay Crowder's not as good as JOK. Reggie Ragland's not as good as JOK. I think they cut Devontae Downs, maybe. I forget. No, I don't know. They might have brought him back. I don't know, but he's better than Devontae Downs. He's better than TJ Brunson. So, yeah, JOK would be the second best linebacker on this team if they took him. So, yeah, I'd be okay with this pick. It has a chance to bust, but it's a very exciting pick. And if the Giants feel he's the best one at number 11 and think they can make him into this game-changing defender that can take away a team's best option, whether it's a running back in the receiving game, a tight end in the receiving game, a slot receiver, then by all means, go ahead and make that pick. Next, we have Jalen Phillips, an edge rusher from Penn State. And before we get into him as a player, we got to go through the pro day he had because it was pretty insane. So he came in at 6'5", 257, awesome size, 34-inch arms, that's great. Only 9-inch hands, which, I guess it's not the biggest deal for a pass rusher, but still. 21 reps on the bench, which was 39th percentile. That's the one downside, and 21's not that bad when I guess you're 257. I mean, I guess it could have been a bit better, but still. A 3-cone of 6.84 at 96th percentile, a 40-yard dash at 6'5", 257, a 4.39. Once again, don't know how realistic the pro day numbers are, but if he ran anything near a 4.39, that's crazy. A 1.59 10-yard split, 88th percentile. Then he had a 4.15 shuttle run, 95th percentile, a 40-inch vertical, 96th percentile, and a broad jump of 134 inches, 100th percentile. So the guy is a tremendous athlete. It's probably understating how great of an athlete this guy is. So he just tore up the pro day, probably had the best pro day of anyone that had a pro day in 2021. So you have to give him credit where credit's due. But his production was never that great. I believe he didn't start his first 2 years. He was abysmal against the run, got much better this year against the run, but he just was not that great of a player. I mean, he basically didn't play much the first 2 years, then played this year. I mean, they only played in 7 games, Penn State. I think Penn State played 9 games total, but I guess he played in 7. There's a lot of, I don't know if they missed games because of COVID and whatnot, but still, he didn't put up the best numbers. There was no sacks, 6.5 tackles for loss, so he didn't make the biggest difference. I mean, he had 1 pass deflection, no forced fumbles, 38 total tackles. So yeah, he didn't make the biggest impact on the game, but you look at the guy from an athletic standpoint, and you look at those pro day numbers, and yeah, a team's probably going to take Jalen Phillips in the first round. Me personally, I'm not a scout. I'm just a guy that just watches YouTube videos and makes evaluations on players. I wasn't too impressed with Jalen Phillips, but if the Giants did take him, I think the thought process is right because an edge rusher is an important position. This guy's a freak of an athlete, and it's going to take good coaching. It's going to take giving him pass rushing moves, having a better pass rushing plan to become a great all-around player in this league, but he has the upside. So I can get on board with a pick that has upside and plays an important position. So I'm not the biggest Owe fan at the moment. I think he has a lot of bust potential, but if you get him right and give him the coaching he needs and get him in a scheme that fits, what he's good at, then you might have yourself a great player on your hands. So the pros, amazing pro day, much improved run defender last year, as I said. I mean, he really didn't play a lot his first 2 years because the run defense was that bad. But a perfect edge build at 6'5", 257, 34.5-inch arms, a difference maker from the weak side. So that's one thing I noticed for sure. He was on the weak side when he was left unblocked. his 4.39, 4.4 speed showed up in a big way. He was chasing down running backs from behind and taking away, those possible long runs. When you left him unblocked, it was a problem. So I love seeing that from him. Great speed, of course. The bad part, the production was not anything special. Took him 2 years to become a starter once again. Still a work in progress. I don't expect him to come in and dominate right away. Maybe he starts getting better halfway through his rookie year. We'll find out what happens, but not very powerful. That's another thing. I feel like when an offensive lineman got his hands on him, his pass rushing moves kind of just went away. So he needs to get better at developing like those secondary moves and having better counter moves and things like that. So he needs good coaching, needs more pass rushing moves. It's definitely something that has to happen with him. But you look at a guy like Owen, all the tools are there. And if you're confident in your coaching staff, you're a team that needs an edge rusher and a guy that just has a very, very high ceiling, then maybe Jayson Oweh is your guy. I mean, I personally prefer Jalen Phillips, Kwity Paye, and Azeez Ojulari over Jayson Oweh, and maybe someone else I forget, but there's someone else I like. I forget his name, but there's other guys I like over him. If the Giants took him, I wouldn't be happy about it in the moment, but at the same time, he has a ton of upside, and eventually I'll get over it and probably get on board. But yeah, I think Jayson Oweh, there needs to be a lot of improvement. If he makes the improvement, he could be great. But right now, he's not NFL ready at the moment. Next, we have Kwity Paye, an edge rusher from Michigan. And like Oweh, I mean, they're kind of different builds in a way. I think Kwity Paye is shorter by a couple inches and is a lot thicker of a build, but another very freaky athlete in this class. I mean, he's a guy that ran a 4.52 40, 36 bench reps. I mean, his pro day was very good. I think he got injured halfway through his pro day, which sucked, but he participated in like 4 drills, did very well in all of them. So, yeah, that's another guy who's a freak athlete. I think Kwity Paye is a bit more pro-ready than Jayson Oweh was, and he had a really good statistical season in 2019. Didn't have the best stats this past year, but you can tell just by watching he improved year to year, so you like seeing that, of course. So I think just his transition to the NFL won't be a physical issue because when you're 6'2", 260, and possess the power that this guy has, it's not going to be a physical issue. It's going to be a technical issue and probably a mental issue if he does not transition right away or if he ever doesn't transition. But I said, in this here right here, on the blurb I wrote, I think at worst he's going to be a decent player. I don't see a way that Kwity Paye is a complete bust. I think at worst you're dealing with a rotational player that, should have been a first-round pick, but at the worst will be a decent player for you. So he has all the tools you'd want. I'm more confident in Kwity Paye figuring it out than Jayson Oweh. And I just think that Kwity Paye is just a few good pass rushing moves away from being a potentially dominant player because he's already very good against the run, as I wrote down. I feel like that's a given for him. Like, he's always been good against the run. He knows how to shed blocks easily, really good at making tackles. So I feel like he's going to be fine there. It's just like, once again, the counter moves on pass rushes, his original pass rushing moves. If he gets that down and gets the right coaching, then this guy has a chance to be something special. So, not refined as a pass rusher. He really sets up his opposing offensive tackles. He just does the same move over and over again. It's just like you're watching a guy just try to run through a wall, 35, 40 times a game, however many times the opponent's passing the ball. And it's like, come on, like you need to do something different here. So I think the offensive tackles he was facing kind of knew what was coming. So if he just changes things up and throws in a couple extra moves, he could, be a big difference maker for a defense. So needs to have different moves, and his pass rushing from the interior was not as good. You would think for a guy that was 6'2", 260, he would have some success against guards, and that was didn't really happen. It was kind of the opposite for a guy like Gregory Rousseau. Rousseau had a lot of his production against guards, and Kwity Paye couldn't produce against guards. And then Rousseau couldn't produce against offensive tackles. And, of course, Kwity Paye did a lot better against offensive tackles. So I just, I think I'd be fine with this pick. I do like that Michigan's put out some really good edge rushers over the years. Rashawn Gary, Winovich. Who's the kid that went to the Patriots last year? I forget his name now. But the Patriots took someone in the second round last year that went to Michigan as well. I forget his name. Oh, Josh Uche. Josh Uche? Yeah, Uche. Went to Michigan as well. So, yeah, they put out some good pass rushers in recent years. And I feel like Kwity Paye has a chance to be that next one. I think he might be the best one. I know Rashawn Gary's been coming on lately. I know Chase Winovich has had some success with the Patriots. But, yeah, Kwity Paye probably is the freakiest athlete out of all these guys. And if he just puts some pass rushing moves together and gets some coaching and has a better approach to his pass rushing moves, then he could be a great player. So, yeah, it's another pick that I'd be fine with. I don't expect it to happen, but I think for most people, he's probably in their top 3 of edge rushers. Some teams might have him as a number 1 guy. I wrote down I think he's going to be a top 20 pick. I'd be surprised if he made it outside the top 20, so he should go highly in this draft. Does he go at 11 overall? Maybe not, but if he did, then that's another pick that I can probably get on board with. So last and definitely not least for me, because I love this guy, Jalen Phillips, the edge rusher from Miami, formerly UCLA. And yeah, if you've heard about this guy's injury history, he's probably just like a non-draftable player for some of you. And I won't argue you about that. I feel like there are some players that have such bad injury histories that you can't draft them. I have a soft spot for Jalen Phillips. I mean, when I went back and watched all these edge rushers in this class, I've probably watched, I've watched close to 120 players now at this point. So I've watched a good amount, total, not just edge rushers, but total. And Jalen Phillips as an edge rusher has stood out the most to me by a good amount. And I think Jalen Phillips from a talent standpoint is the best edge rusher in this class. That's my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. But yeah, the guy's had, I think, 3 concussions. Maybe it was 4. It's been a lot. Had a wrist injury and an ankle injury. I think that was his first or second year at UCLA. So, yeah, I think at one point he got hit by a car. He was on a scooter, I think, got hit by a car, hurt his wrist, played in like a cast the next season, and then he also got a concussion, I think, from that accident as well. So it wasn't all football injuries. Of course, had the unfortunate car accident thing, but yeah, the guy had a bunch of concussions. He once retired from football back in December of 2018, I think it was. He retired from football, left UCLA. He didn't leave UCLA. Did he leave? I don't know. I forget, honestly. He might have went to work after that. I forget, honestly. I read his story once, but it was a while ago. But then he, last summer, transferred to Miami, decided to play football. They weren't sure if he was going to play at first, then decided to play. Gregory Rousseau did not play, of course, for Miami. So, Jalen Phillips basically took that spot, and he had a great season. I forget what his numbers were. I think he had like 8 sacks last year. So, here it is, 8 sacks, 15.5 tackles for loss last year for Miami. So, his stats were good. He got better as the year went on. I mean, taking a full year off from football and dealing with all those injuries, you might start slow. But as the year went on and the season went on, Jalen Phillips got a lot better. So I just think from a talent standpoint, the guy's exciting. He could be 1 concussion away from ending his career. That's like the downside here. It's very scary, of course, and just 1 hit away. But as I've said in a previous video, I mean, that's the case for any player. Any player is 1 hit away. I know some guys are more injury prone than others, but still, I mean, Jalen Phillips is a guy that if he plays if you guarantee me right now, you said, hey, Mike, Jalen Phillips is going to play in the NFL for 12 to 15 years, I would take him in the top 5, maybe even top 7. Like, I'm pretty confident in this guy's ability. It just depends, can he play? Can he stay on the field? That's what we have to see. So the good news about him, or the good things about him, great mixture of explosiveness and power. So you love seeing all that. Gets off the line very quickly, very strong hands, so that was great. He fights through contact, blockers as well as anybody. He was making plays against the run that were awesome. There were teams trying to run like these jet sweeps against him. He would just get right by a guy and disrupt the play. That's why he had the 15.5 tackles for loss last year. That was part of it. So his pass rushing moves are already really good. I think, of course he could polish off a few things, but for the most part, probably has the best pass rushing moves in this class. For his pro day, he ranked in the 80th percentile or better in 6 out of the 7 drills he did. So, it proves right there the guy's a really good athlete. Overall, great athlete with plenty of upside. Definitely could be a game changer. He ended 2020, as I said, playing his best football of his career. So you do like seeing that from him. So the downside about him, long list of injuries, once retired from football, only about a half a season of great pass rushing production. That's when he ended the season playing well. Didn't play in 2019, and he needs to get better with his counter moves when his first move's taken away. So that's a lot of guys in this class. I feel like Azeez Ojulari is the only guy that kind of escapes that, but pretty much every other edge rusher needs like good secondary moves, good counter moves. And Jalen Phillips is really good at setting you up and getting you on the first move, but if an offensive lineman gets his hands on him, sometimes he doesn't really disengage right away and doesn't really know what to do after that. So, I mean, that's the case for a lot of college prospects. I'm not going to get on too much for that one. But, yeah, Jalen Phillips would be exciting. I don't know if, Dave Gettleman would hang his job on a guy like this because, at the end of the day, I know it's a collaborative effort, but I don't know if a guy like Gettleman who basically is in a make-or-break year, Daniel Jones is in a make-or-break year, I don't know if he wants to draft a Jalen Phillips who oh, I'm going to retire in week 3 of the NFL. Like, I don't know if he wants to deal with that. So I don't know if they're going to do with that, go with that type of risk. He might fall in the 20s because of it. I feel like a team would get a tremendous discount for a player of this talent. But if the Giants did take him at 11, which I would be surprised by, I'd be a big fan of it. I do love him as a player. So, yeah, I could definitely be excited for that one. I just don't expect it to happen. But the other guy I wanted to talk about was Patrick Surtain before we wrap up here. So some fans are like, you cannot draft Patrick Surtain. You already have so many corners on this team, all that. And I know that the Giants have talked to Jason McCourty, which I think would be a good move, by the way. I know McCourty's like 32, 33 now. Didn't really play that great last year, but he was good the year prior in 2019. So, yeah, he's probably declining, but still. Has the Joe Judge connection and all that. So they haven't signed Jason McCourty yet. And if you look at the Giants' depth chart for cornerbacks, it's not the prettiest thing in the world. Like, yes, you have James Bradbury, played like an All-Pro last year, made the Pro Bowl, I believe. Then, did he make the Pro Bowl? I don't know. Did he? I think he did. It was Bradbury and Ingram, I think. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Pro Bowls don't mean much. But anyway, Bradbury, then you have Darnay Holmes in the slots, and then you have Titans, Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson, who's had plenty of injuries in his career the past couple, 2-3 years. So if Adoree Jackson gets injured again, what happens at cornerback 2 for the Giants? I mean, that's a question that not many people are going to like the answer to, because I'll look at the Giants' depth chart real quick. It's going to be Julian Love probably, assuming they're going to put him at cornerback once again, which I would like. I do like him at cornerback, but so you have him, Julian Love. I thought Isaac Yiadom was cut. I could have sworn he was, but he's on the depth chart. I don't know. Sam Beal, he probably won't be here next year, so there's really not much depth behind those guys. And I'm a person that believes, especially in this 2021 modern NFL where passing is, the way to go offensively, you can never have too many cornerbacks. And James Bradbury's 28 next year. He's not going to be great forever. Adoree Jackson's only 25, but, once again, the injury history is bad for him. And Patrick Surtain's played at a very high level for 3 years. He's another guy that I think is a safe pick. He might not have the highest upside. I think Caleb Farley, J.C. Horn have higher ceilings and higher upside, but Patrick Surtain is a pretty safe player that plays a very valuable position. So if the Giants, for some reason, took Patrick Surtain, I wouldn't be mad about it. I honestly can be fine with that. I don't think it'd be a bad pick whatsoever. I know some fans won't like that because, we have too many cornerbacks. I don't think there's such thing as too many cornerbacks, especially when the next option behind the guy who gets injured is Julian Love, who I like Julian Love, believe me, but that's not a proven commodity right there. Like, I don't know what to expect from him. So, yeah, I'm just going to put it on the record. I'd be fine if it took Patrick Surtain. I don't expect it to happen, but that's fine with me. So, anyway, that'll do it for this video. Leave in the comments if you guys enjoyed. Once again, I have 2 mock drafts coming up soon. Mid-round players, late-round picks that I like for the Giants. Hopefully they make some type of pick and some type of... I feel like in the last few years, since I've been making content, I feel like the Giants usually pick guys in the middle rounds that I'm a fan of. Like, I love Julian Love. I love O'Shane Ximines. I love Matt Peart, Darnay Holmes. Like, they pick guys in the middle rounds that I'm a fan of. It's just the early picks I'm not a fan of usually. But, so yeah, we'll see if I get some more right this year. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.